Lake Michigan, right next to us, is one that we're particularly concerned about. It's the one that we swim in. It's the one where our water comes from and the like. So what the proposal is out there is that we hold accountable those that actually dump that sewage in there. One of the biggest dumpers actually around is Detroit. They let that sewage just go ahead and hit the Great Lakes pretty consistently, significantly. We saw recently that Milwaukee did the same thing when they had those big rains and it just overflowed. We're going to allow for the emergency situations to be able to happen, but there is a financial penalty that goes into any of those entities that actually do pollute the lake, and it goes into a fund to help clean that lake back up. So it's a self-policing, self-funding mechanism, not on the backs of the taxpayers. So that's what we're proposing to have happen.
All right, next question. Right here.
Hello, I'm John Schladweiler from Wilmette, and my question is on the revenue side. For the life of me, I can't understand why there's been the opposition to putting the tax rates back up on the very wealthy. But my question is more on the tax loopholes that you referred to in your talk.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate for how much revenue could be obtained if the obvious tax loopholes were closed?
And I don't have a specific number on what would be coming in if the tax loopholes were closed. But I can tell you that I am an advocate for leveling the playing field. And we want to make sure that the government is not in the business of picking the winners and losers. And we've seen that actually happen here locally. Right? We've seen that happen locally with just what's going on with the governor, and everybody's heard about Motorola. We're delighted that they're staying. I am delighted that Motorola is staying. We want all those businesses to stay. But Motorola, when they said, we're going to stay $100 million for 10 years, who's that? That's the next Fortune 1000 company that says, what about me next? Estimates are that 2/3 of those revenues have already been dispersed or given out of what they're expecting to raise from that. Now, from my perspective, that's the government, state government, picking the winners and losers. We don't want that, because I can tell you from my own perspective as a small business guy, that my company would not be eligible. When I went knocking, and certainly the governor would, basically say, I'm sorry, we have nothing for you. What we prefer to have happen is create an environment where we says, we want to attract those businesses in. We want to give them an opportunity here so that it's a level playing field, as opposed to having them say, you are a favored status and you have favored status. So that's something that I would argue that we want to have happen. And same thing is true with the federal tax code. We want to make sure that the government's not picking the winners and losers out there, that we create an environment for investment back in businesses and allow businesses to grow and thrive.
All right, next question right here.
Eric Burgess, Long Grove. One of the first things during the Obama administration was the nationalization of the banks and the nationalization of private companies such as GM. Right now, off of taxpayer money, because it's taxpayer money that was used to nationalize those, there was just reported in the Tribune that GM is building a huge facility in Mexico, thereby driving our jobs and our potential revenue in this country off taxpayer dollars. How do we plan on stopping something like that?
That's a very good question. Let me say that I don't know how we end up stopping that, especially as the largest the largest shareholder of that organization right now. I think that obviously we pick up the phone and we say, what are we doing? And try to talk to elected officials, and if that's...
I think that cuts across all political spectrums, quite honestly. That's why
one of the things, to your point, and the thing that we opened up the town hall with was, it's about jobs in the economy. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If I ask one of my friends over the other